this video will cover how to identify the gradient and the y-intercept from two coordinates. So if you're given two coordinates, you might need to calculate a line's equation. And the first thing that you have to do is work out what the gradient is. And this is the formula that you'll use, your gradient formula. On the top you'll notice we have y values, which means we're talking about movement up or down. And on the bottom we've got x values, so this is referring to movement to the right or to the left. Even though when we graph it we're always talking about movement to the right, this equation basically takes care of that. If it's a negative gradient, overall it will be negative, and if it's a positive gradient, overall this number will come out positive. So you have to do this step first with your two coordinates to be able to proceed. But once you get to step 2, you have a choice between two different methods. The first one is to substitute known values into your point slope equation, which is y minus y1 equals m bracket x minus x1. You'll then need to expand the brackets and transpose to make y the subject. And by that point you will have finished working out what your line's equation is. The second method uses our familiar y equals mx plus c formula, and you'll need to substitute known values into that and solve for the value of c, which is the y-intercept. With this second option, you then need to restate the equation in its final form, which is where you put in m in the place of m, and you put your intercept c that you just found in the place of c. So looking at step 1 and 2, step 1 is what you have to do first. You must find the gradient before you can do anything else. But as I said, with step 2 you have a choice of which method you would prefer to use, and it's up to you which one you feel more comfortable with. So to reiterate, the first step is finding the gradient, which you must do, but then you have a choice between using point slope form and slope intercept form. I'm going to show both of these on the current slide. So your first step should be writing in x1 y1 and x2 y2 so that you can keep track of which number is representing which value. And I would recommend you get into the habit of writing out the whole formula, but as we have it right here, I'm not going to do that on this slide. So y2 is 3, y1 is 7, x2 is 6, x1 is 1. 3 minus 7 is minus 4, 6 minus 1 is 5, which means that's our final gradient m. Okay, now what we need to do is we're going to use this method here. So we're going to use the formula seen at the top right, and what I would get you to do is write out everything except for the values you're going to substitute in. So this is like the bare bones of your equation. You need to leave the two pronumerals alone, the negative signs alone, the equals and the brackets, but now I can go through and substitute in our values. So y1 is 7, m is negative 4/5, and x1 is 1. Now be careful here because we've got negative 4/5 being multiplied by negative 1, which overall makes that a positive number. Now we need to add 7 to that side and this side. Seven plus another 4/5 will give us 7.8 as our answer. So this is your y-intercept, this is your gradient. The negative is telling us that from left to right this line is going to be going down, and it's going to be falling 4 spaces every time it runs 5 spaces across to the right. Alright, that was the first method. Now let's use the second method with these coordinates. Now here we're doing y2 minus y1, but you'll notice that y1 is a negative number already. So when you subtract a negative number, that's the same as adding a positive, so minus a negative becomes positive, and we still write in x2 as we have been, minus 8 minus another 1. So negative 31 plus 4 brings us to negative 27, and negative 8 subtract another 1 brings us to negative 9. So 2 negatives here means our gradient is overall going to be positive. And how many 9s are there in 27? You should get an answer of 3. So your gradient's 3, which means this line's going to go up 3 units every time it runs 1. So that's the sort of gradient you're looking at there. Okay, now we're going to use y equals mx plus c. So we'll put in one of these coordinates here for y, so we'll put in the negative 4 equals, we just worked out our gradient was 3, x is 1, so 3 times 1, plus c. We're solving for c here. So it becomes negative 4 equals 3 plus c. We need to subtract 3 from both sides, which gives us a c of negative 4 minus another 3, which is negative 7. So this is where I've said to be careful that you don't just write the y equals mx plus c once. You must come back and restate your answer. Now that you've watched this video, you should feel fairly confident in approaching these questions. All you need to remember is that you must first calculate the gradient, and then you have your choice of methods for solving the rest of the equation. Thanks for watching.